Hey everyone, it's the Groom to be. Hope you're having a killer time down in Austin. I'm sure we're having a great time here in Nashville. I don't know, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure we're getting after it when you're seeing this video. I hope you guys get Mackenzie nice and drunk the way it should be on a bachelorette party. Right now I have the over and under in terms of the amount of time she pukes at 2. So me and the guys will put a little bit of a wager on that and bet either over or under that 2 number. So you'll all have to let me know if she pukes more than twice. But yeah, have fun. And Mackenzie, I'll see you when we get home. Three words to describe Mackenzie. Now, the 3 words I'd probably use are all body parts, so I'll keep that between me and her and not bore you with those details. But the 3 words that best describe Mackenzie is her drive. She's the most hardworking person that I know. Definitely outworks me and will outwork anybody. It's something that I truly admire. Second is her sentimental nature. So she's a very sentimental person, as you know, both with possessions and memories. But I'll give you an example. So they sold, the Logans, as in they, sold their house in Vernon about 6 years back, and her parents were giving away some of their possessions that they didn't want to bring into their Stone Harbor house, and ultimately Mackenzie took home the cake dish, and the reason she took it home is because they used that cake dish for birthdays, so it holds that sentimental value for her. So she brought it to our house. Ask me how many times we used it. 0 is the amount of times, but we'll still keep it in our house. Maybe one day we'll use it. And then the third one is her patience. I'm pretty hard to love and a lot to handle. So she's a very patient person with me. I think if she wasn't, this relationship probably would have only lasted maybe a year or so. So I'm glad she's very patient, because I'm someone that's very difficult to get along with sometimes. Three words Mackenzie would use to describe me. Can I use sexy, and sexy as all 3? No, I didn't think so. The first one I would say is my humor. Mackenzie's always laughing around me. Most of the time she's actually laughing at me because of my terrible dad jokes. Most people don't find them funny. She doesn't either, but she still laughs at me. Sometimes she does laugh with me, but overall I think she's gravitated towards my personality, so that would probably be my number 1 word that she would use for me. Number 2, they're not all going to be positive, but I would say my messiness. She's probably the cleanest person to walk this earth. So the fact that she's with a very messy person is banana land. And we butt heads at times because of my messiness. She wants it to look like a house cleaner's been here every single day, and that's just not the case with me. So she would definitely use messy as the number 2 word for me. And then number 3 is supportive. I'm supportive of everything that Mackenzie does in life, career-wise, personal-wise. I'll support her till the day I die in whatever she wants to do, and I'll back her 100%. The most romantic thing that I've done for Mackenzie. Now, some would argue that last summer when I delivered that amazing proposal on the rooftop of a building in New York City would be number 1. You all have probably heard it by now, so I won't retell that story. And I'll give you one that I would say is a close number 2, but could be in contention for number 1. And that is 6 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. It was in college. So, wow, time really flies. She was training for a half marathon that she was going to run. So she put hours, days, weeks of time into training and was really excited about running this half marathon. The half marathon was quickly approaching, and she realized she had forgot to sign up for it. And when she went to sign up, there was no more space and she no longer could do it. So she was really bummed out because she'd been putting all these hours and days and weeks of training into running this half marathon, and she couldn't do it. So I decided to put on the first and only Braden Ridgeway half marathon up in my hometown in Massachusetts. So I mapped out a half marathon route for her, and while she was running it, I went to the store and bought flowers. I bought a medal. and essentially all the things that you would need for someone who completes a half marathon. So that when she finished that half marathon, I was waiting for her at the finish line with flowers and a medal to hang around her neck. So it made it feel like she had just run an official half marathon. So if anyone needs a half marathon to run, I can definitely set up the second annual Braden Ridgeway half marathon for anyone who wants to run one. If Mackenzie had to bring one thing to a deserted island, that one thing would hopefully be me, but probably not. So I would say she would probably bring water. So I know this sounds like the most practical answer and the most boring answer ever, but Mackenzie drinks so much water. It's crazy. She is constantly drinking water throughout the day. She probably goes to the bathroom like 20 something times a day. So it's ridiculous the amount of water she drinks and the amount of times she has to use the bathroom. And it's really annoying when we go on road trips because we have to stop at rest stops maybe like once an hour. She has the bladder of essentially a grandmother because of the amount of water she drinks. So she definitely would need to bring water because the small rations that you get on a deserted island would definitely not be enough for her. If I could have one superpower, this is a tough question because there's two schools of thought that I have. Like one school of thought would be probably the boring and atypical answer of seeing into the future so that you could take the money that you have now and invest in things that are going to take off in the future and be super wealthy. But my real one would probably be being able to eat whatever I want and not gain weight and essentially have a six pack. So being able to be shredded and eat whatever I want. So if I'm feeling like I want McDonald's one day, I'll go eat McDonald's and not be able to gain any weight. So that's my real answer, is just being able to be thin and eat whatever I want, because currently I eat bad and it reflects. So I want to be able to eat whatever I want and have a crazy 8-pack. So that's my real one superpower that I wish I had. And I know that one's like, well, that's not really a superpower, but it's kind of a practical superpower that would help me in my day-to-day life. Mackenzie's best feature. I know I can't use the word all features, so I will. I'll pick my favorite feature and the one that initially attracted me to her, and that's her legs. She's got legs for days, and that was the one feature 10 years ago that first attracted me, and she still has great legs. So I'm glad 10 years later her legs are still looking as good as the first day that I saw them. So sorry for maybe a creepy answer, but it was definitely her legs. Mackenzie and I's first date, it was 10 years ago, freshman year in Maple 11. Shout out Maple 11 peeps. I know some of you are there. Actually, it's probably just Kristen. So shout out Kristen, Maple 11. But yeah, we were poor 10 years ago, freshman year. So we didn't have a lot of money to go on official dates. So I would say our first date was probably in her room. We ordered classic pizza and Netflix and chilled before that was a term. So we vegged out on some good pizza and subs, and then watched some Netflix, which I don't even think that existed then. So probably just watched TV or a movie and hung out. But I would say like probably our first official date was actually when we became official down in Newport, Rhode Island. We spent the day down there, and that's when I asked her to be my girlfriend, and the rest is history. So the one item that Mackenzie would trash my closet, she's actually gone through and trashed quite a bit since we've started living together the past few years. The first things that were to go were Hawaiian shirts. So those were out the door. She hates Hawaiian shirts on me. But the one that's still in my closet that she hasn't trashed right now is it's kind of like a Hawaiian shirt, but it's got Bigfoot on it. As you may or may not know, I'm a huge Bigfoot believer. So my parents got me a Bigfoot button-up shirt that's in my closet, and she despises if I ever wear it. So I typically don't wear it around her. But she would definitely trash that if she could go into my closet right now. But I would say, like, let's not talk about me. Let's go into her 3 closet full of clothes that she has and see what she doesn't wear and trash all of those. So don't look at me in terms of trashing things in my closet. Let's trash Mackenzie's closet. So the first time we both realized that we loved each other and even said it was 3 months into our relationship 10 years ago. We had a night down in Vernon before we were going down to Stone Harbor for the week. And I stopped in Stone Harbor for the night, and we were going to leave the next morning. And in Vernon, they had a pool, so we spent the night skinny dipping, fooling around. Eventually, we took that inside and had a little bit more fun. And at the end of fooling around and having fun, we both said to each other that we loved each other. And it was a real romantic and special moment. Sorry, Miranda and Sid, for having to hear this. This is probably something that you don't want to hear, but we ultimately both said we love you. 3 months into our relationship, we almost knew immediately. What was Mackenzie wearing the first time I saw her? So that was 10 years ago, so my memory's a little fuzzy. I barely remember what I had for breakfast, so I would probably say she was wearing something that was by Free People. So she was still in her kind of hippie phase 10 years ago when I first met her. She probably had like one of those hair braids in her hair still from the summer, wearing Free People and kind of like a 70s type outfit. But the other outfits that I remember from when we first started dating was she was wearing a lot of lax clothing. She would always have sweatpants on and sweatshirts on. So the fact that I still found her attractive, even though she was wearing probably the most unattractive clothing, speaks testaments to the attraction that I had for her. So Mackenzie and I's first kiss was in Maple 11. So as I alluded to before, we both lived in Maple 11 our freshman year of college. I had her up against the fire escape and was too much of a punani. I won't use the P word. I was too much of a punani to give her a kiss on the stairwell up against the fire escape. So I thought I blew my chance, but ultimately I mustered up the courage and went to her room, and luckily Kristen was not there. So thank you, Kristen. And I kissed her in her room. So we had our first kiss in her room in Maple 11. So Maple 11 will always have a special place in our heart. Mackenzie's biggest fear is probably that she isn't doing enough. And that's multifaceted. So that could be career-wise, it can be personal life-wise. From a work standpoint, she feels sometimes that she's not doing enough, even though she is definitely doing enough. And then she's also thinking, is she living life to the fullest? So she wants to make sure that she's capitalizing on everything life has to offer and maximizing her day and making sure that she's making every day count. I think she sometimes gets caught up in the weeds and thinks that she's not doing enough. So that's her biggest fear, is really not living life to the fullest and not doing enough to kind of maximize her time. What Mackenzie and I argue about the most. So I don't want to make this video more boring or more repetitive than it probably already is. So it was going to be about cleaning, because I'm a messy person. She's a clean person. So I'll talk about what the most recent things are in terms of what we argue about the most. And I would say it's around Cooper, and it's about taking him out. So I probably take Cooper out 90% of the time. And that other 10%, it's like pulling teeth trying to get Mackenzie to take Cooper out for a walk. So I would say Cooper is our number one point of contention in terms of who's going to let him out next. Cooper's a bundle of joy to our lives, so wouldn't trade that for the world. But Mackenzie, please please take Cooper out a little bit more often than you currently are. Thank you. Mackenzie's favorite drink is a Moscow Mule. Mackenzie doesn't like a lot of things, both from a food and drink standpoint. So I'll list a few things that she doesn't like. So she doesn't like American cheese, doesn't like avocado, doesn't like ketchup, doesn't like watermelon, doesn't like a lot of foods. So she's very picky from a food standpoint. She's also picky from a drink standpoint. So she doesn't drink a lot of different beers, doesn't like a lot of hard alcohol. She's even picky with her wines. So she doesn't have a lot of cocktails that she likes, but she always is drawn towards a Moscow Mule. So that's going to be one of our drinks of choice at our wedding, and it's her favorite drink that she likes to have from time to time. Mackenzie's weirdest crush. Some would argue that I would be her weirdest crush because I'm a goofy dude. But from a celebrity standpoint, she hasn't really voiced too many people that she has a crush on, but I do recall that she is a huge Ryan Gosling fan. Now, some people would say that that's not a weird crush, but she first voiced that to me 10 years ago when he was, 31? So he was still kind of within that age of being hunky. I think now he's 41, so he's kind of entered that DILF status. So you would argue that maybe she has a thing for older men. But then you could argue the same thing for me because my celebrity crush is Jennifer Aniston, and I think she's in her 50s now. So I think we have a thing for older people. And maybe that's why she chose me, because I am 3 months older than her, so she is into older guys. If Mackenzie could eat one thing for the rest of her life, it would probably be the least sustainable food that you could eat for the rest of your life, and that's candy. She's an absolute fiend for candy. She'll eat it by the bagload sometimes. Sorry to out you like that, Mackenzie. She likes the watermelon Sour Patch Kids. She likes the Australian strawberry licorice. She likes any type of gummy candy. Not really into chocolate that much, but she does love a good bag of candy from time to time. But she does have to kind of scale back at times because of the fact that candy's not good for you. But if it wasn't a non-candy food that you could potentially eat every single day, it'd be pizza. She loves pizza. I think we used to order it when we were in our real fat ass mode at least once a week. So she would definitely thrive on pizza too. But I would say candy is definitely the official answer that I'm giving. So if Mackenzie could be famous for one thing, it's one thing that I'm going to say she will be famous for, and it's going to be the CEO of Aldi. She absolutely loves Aldi. She always talks about her job. She always points them out on the road when we're passing by an Aldi. So she absolutely loves Aldi. And I think she'll be CEO one day. So if she ever does become CEO, we have to replay this clip from June of 2022, saying that Braden predicted that Mackenzie will be the CEO of Aldi. So it's not really so much the word could, but will be famous for is being the CEO of Aldi. If Mackenzie won the lottery, her first purchase would be a very practical purchase, kind of the same purchase that a lot of newly found lottery winners buy. But that would be a house, and a house specifically in Stone Harbor. So there's a reason that we're getting married down in Stone Harbor. She absolutely loves it down there. So I think she would probably want to own a piece of real estate in that very expensive market. I think the only way that we would be able to afford living in Stone Harbor is if we did win the lottery. So I would say she would probably choose a house down in Stone Harbor with her first purchase. Either that, or she'd just buy a shit ton of clothes that she currently doesn't have. But we'd probably need a new house with bigger closets to house all those clothes. So I think we'd buy the house first, then she'd probably buy clothes second. What is my most embarrassing moment in life? I'm a very embarrassing person, so there's a laundry list of embarrassing moments that I have, but I'll think to a recent one that still sticks with me, even a year later. But I was asking for Mackenzie's hand in marriage with her parents after a round of golf. And I was super nervous, as most people are asking for hands in marriage. And I went to ask both Jerry, who's Mackenzie's mom, and John, who's her father, for her hand in marriage. But I fumbled the bag so hard, I actually asked Jerry for her hand in marriage and not for her daughter's hand in marriage. So I said something along the lines like, "Can I have your hand in marriage?" instead of saying, "Can I have your daughter's hand in marriage?" So I'm technically supposed to be marrying Jerry now because she said yes, but then she corrected me. "You mean Mackenzie's hand in marriage, right?" Jokingly. So Mackenzie, if things don't work out with me and you, I know Jerry's a good backup plan for me. The one thing that I couldn't live without besides Mackenzie, this is a real layup of an answer because you all know how obsessed both Mackenzie and I are with Cooper. So I think Cooper is the number one answer. I think my family would probably be pretty pissed that I just said Cooper. So I'll say my family because Cooper counts as my family, and even my soon to be family in laws, I think that they count as well. So I'll say family in totality because I couldn't live without my family. But Cooper, I think, is on that pedestal within that family answer. So my unofficial answer is Cooper, but my official answer is family, just so I don't ruffle any feathers.